Hey, I want to apologize for those technical difficulties. There, I thought I'd signed on and had a limited time, but I got 15 minutes. So I have no idea where I left off in the last video, but hopefully it was somewhere around here. I had a whole lot of good things to say, but you didn't get to hear it. Alrighty then. Where were we? I don't know. Somewhere in Obadiah. Obed Edom. Uh, okay. Do we do the outline? Hope so. Author, we don't know which guy it is. And then I may have been defending my choice of the late date between 586 and 539. And the reason for that was Psalm 137, verse 7, which says, oh man, remember, O Lord, against the sons of Edom, the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it to its very foundation, which means they were saying they're celebrating when Jerusalem was being destroyed, when it was being burned down with fire. We're saying that Psalm 137 was an imprecatory psalm. It was sung during the captivity. The Babylonians are taunting the Jews, and they're saying, hey, why don't you sing us one of your happy Jewish songs about Zion? And they said, we can't, we're too sad. Every time we remember Jerusalem, we get really super depressed. And so remember, O Lord, against the sons of Edom that day when Jerusalem was destroyed. I think there is a bit of an irony here in that it mentions fire. And the key verse from Obadiah being Jacob will be a fire in the house of Joseph, a flame, and but the house of Esau will be as stubble. And they will set them on fire and consume them, so there'll be no survivors of the house of Esau. Jerusalem was told they're going to be destroyed, but that God would save a remnant. In this case, there is no remnant for Esau. There's no remnant for Edom. So whether it was early or late, Esau had it coming. Edom had it coming. They helped Babylon and at least cheered them on. They mocked them as they walked away to captivity. And so I think that's the most appropriate application. The theme, Obad Edom. Edom is being judged for their attitude and actions toward Judah. Remember, their family. This rebellion against God's ways goes all the way back 1,000 years to good old Esau. If you want to hear more about that, you can listen to my sermon on Esau being an ungodly man. Seeking repentance. Actually, he sought the Lord's repentance. He wanted the Lord to change his mind. The Lord would not change his mind. He wasn't concerned about repenting of his sin. You can find that on the Orland Evangelical Free Church website under sermons. Look it up from last summer. All right, so they'll be judged and destroyed, and there won't be a remnant for them. Purpose here is to prove the Abrahamic covenant in Genesis 12:3, which says, "Those who curse you, I will curse," and that is the bread and butter for the Edomites. God would judge those who harmed his people. He is banking on being good with his promises and saying, "Look, you guys have done this for so long. Again, they've been warned so many times." And now they're being told that that's it. They've crossed the line. There's no turning back. And God is sending them judgment. No remnants. Complete house burned up. Geography and timeline, depending on early or late. We're going with the late date here. You've got yourself a map coming up on the next page. So we'll look at that. But 560 BC, by that time, there's no more technically country of Edom per se after the invasion of the Nabatean Arabs by the time of Malachi. So within 100 years, Edom is gone. There are no Edomites whatsoever. The Nabatean Arabs come out from the desert on their camels. They're like attack camels with a couple like, rocket launchers on the side and a gun on like the head of the thing. It's kind of like the Mermakill in Lord of the Rings, those giant elephants, except these are camels, something like that. Anyway, the history of conflict between Israel, which, that's Jacob, he got renamed, and Edom, remember they got named after daddy Esau, goes all the way back. Obviously, we could go all the way back to their upbringing, fighting in the womb, right? One comes out, Esau comes out all hairy, but Jacob comes out holding his brother's leg. There was going to be strife. There was strife in the womb. There was strife with them growing up with the birthright. There was strife with them when, um, I guess, when Jacob ran away. Esau wanted to kill him. There was a pretty tense scene when they came back together, but Esau went his way and Jacob went his way, and that was that. Nevertheless, in Numbers 20, the Israelites are trying to go to the promised land, and they're going around the long way, and they ask permission to go through Edom. If you recall that story, remember the long wilderness journey there. In Numbers 20, they're approaching the land from the south, and Miriam has just died, and they grumbled at the waters of Meribah, and they get close. And they say to Edom, well, Edom says to them, you shall not pass through us, lest I come out with a sword against you. Again, the sons of Israel said to him, we shall go up by the highway, and if I and my livestock do drink any of your water, then I'll pay its price. Let me only pass through on my feet, nothing else. But he said again, you shall not pass through. And Edom came out against him with a heavy force and with a strong hand. Thus Edom refused to allow Israel to pass through his territory, so Israel turned away from him. That's one of the things later on that the Edomites are brought up. It's like, you did not let us go through the land. We see also in the times of David, there was fighting against the Edomites. 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel. In 1 King and in the Chronicles, we have uprisings against the people in all these various passages. One thing to note as you're reading the Bible is that code name for Edom is Mount Seir. Mount Seir is the mountain. It's the high plateau area overlooking the Dead Sea and the Jordan Valley there. On their side, I guess on Edom's side, it'd be the Dead Sea. And yeah, so that's their highest point, and that is kind of code word for Edom and code word for Esau's country in the Old Testament, Mount Seir. I'm pretty sure that'll be on a quiz or on another question and answer thing. It would be a good idea for you to look up these verses. I looked up the Numbers verse, but many of these other ones, you see rebellion, you see fighting, you see them overthrowing the authority of the Israelites, you see battles, and lots of conflict between Israel, the descendants of Jacob, and Edom, the descendants of Esau. I want you to note something from history, that after the Edomites get pushed out of their land, they move into the south part of the land of Israel. That would be after they've been kicked out by those camel warriors. And the south part of the land in South Judah becomes known as Idumea. And they have become named as the Idumeans, which sounds kind of like Edom. I think it's a Aramaic sizing of Edom is Idumea. Remember, Judah becomes later known as Judea, and the Edomites, where they resettle, becomes known as Idumea. So you get some transitioning there. I want you to note also that according to Josephus, the family of the Herods, the famous New Testament family, where we have 4 different Herods in the Gospels and in Acts, that family was from the Edomite remnant of Idumea. There's like half Jewish, half Idumean there. And we know that the Bible points out that they were just a rotten family. So after the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70, that is, when Jerusalem is burned down by the Romans, the Edomites were annihilated. They were taken care of. They're out. There are no more descendants of Edom that exist today. Let's take a look at that map then that I've been referring to. And let's go down here at the bottom. So here's Judah and Jerusalem. And then you've got the Dead Sea, and you got Moab. And then south of there, you got Edom. In the text, it mentions Basra. And so you've got them trying to come through the land, and they're trying to take the way of the patriarchs, or the King's Highway, and they had to go around before they could go into the land. So the crazy camel people come from out here and attack Edom, and they push them this way. After Jerusalem's been destroyed during the Babylonian captivity, and so this part of the land becomes known as Idumea. This part of the land becomes known as Judea. And the Idumeans then, this is like, this is where the Edomites live up to the New Testament times. We had a mixture of people down here. We had a mixture of people up here in Samaria. But anyway, you want to add that to your map. The Edomites move into the south part of Judah in the Negev, and that part of the land becomes known as Idumea, very similar to Edom. Okay, Jonah's next, but we won't do that. So let me go through some questions for Obadiah. Go ahead and say it. Obed-Edom. That's right. Obed-Edom. Obadiah's name means servant of Yahweh. And it is only how many verses long? And it is a prophecy against which country? And who are they descended from? And he was whose son? And that guy's brother was Jacob. Okay, Jacob, Edom is judged many times. Our outline for the book has two parts. First of all, Edom's judgment. Second of all, Judah's restoration. There are lots of Obadiahs in the book. We don't know which Obadiah, if any, this Obadiah is. It may just be a title rather than a name. I'm going to go with the late date. And why I'm going to go with the late date? Because of passages like Psalm 137:7. Remember Edom, O Lord, because of the day of Jerusalem when they said, raise it to the ground. We've got our theme being Obed-Edom. Our purpose is to prove the Abrahamic covenant. God would curse those who curse him, who curse Abraham and his family. We have a little bit of geography on that map, but after the time of Malachi, there's no Edomites living in Edom. The history goes way back. It goes back to the womb between Jacob, who gets renamed Israel, and Esau, whose descendants are the Edomites. His son was Edom. Remember, there's also code word for Edom in the Old Testament, it'd be Mount Seir. And that the Herods of New Testament fame were descendant from the Edomite remnant in Idumea, the south part of the land after the captivity. And there are no more Edomites in the land. Obadiah 1:18. Then the house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, but the house of Edom will be like stubble, and they'll be consumed, and there will be none that remain from there. Let's look at the book really quickly. We might as well. It's short, okay, and we've got time. You've got time. What else are you going to do with your day, right? All that other homework I gave you? I know. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let's look at this. Obadiah is the vision of Obadiah. Okay, remember Amos had visions. He receives this revelation from God as a vision too. Thus says Yahweh God concerning Edom. We have heard a report from the Lord, and an envoy has been sent among the nations, saying, arise and let us go against her for battle. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You are greatly despised. The arrogance of your heart has deceived you. You who live in the clefts of the rock, in the loftiness of your dwelling place, who say in your heart, who will bring me down to earth? Though you build high like the eagle, though you set your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. If thieves came to you, if robbers by night, oh, how you would be ruined. Would they not steal only until they had enough? If grapes gathered came to you, would they not leave some gleanings? Oh, how Esau will be ransacked and his hidden treasure searched out. All the men allied with you will send you forth to the border, and the men at peace with you will deceive you and overpower you. They who eat your bread will set an ambush for you. There is no understanding in him. Will I not on that day, declares the Lord, destroy wise men from Edom, and understanding from the mountain of Esau? Then your mighty men will be dismayed, O Teman, so that everyone may be cut off from the mountain of Esau by slaughter. Because of violence to your brother Jacob, you will be covered with shame, and you will be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth, and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you too were as one of them. Do not gloat over your brother's day, the day of his misfortune, and do not rejoice over the sons of Judah in the day of their destruction. Yes, do not boast in the day of their distress. Do not enter the gate of my people in the day of their disaster. Yes, you do not gloat over their calamity in the day of their disaster, and do not loot their wealth in the day of their disaster. Do not stand at the fork of the road to cut down their fugitives, and do not imprison their survivors in the day of their distress. Look, a belly button. For the day of the Lord draws near on all the nations. As you have done, it will be done to you. Right? Those who curse, I will curse. Your dealings will return on your own head. Because just as you drank on my holy mountain, all the nations will drink continually. They will drink and swallow and become as if they had never existed. They're going to be drinking the cup of God's wrath. But on Mount Zion there will be those who escape, and it will be holy. And the house of Jacob will possess their possessions. Then the house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, but the house of Esau will be a stubble. And they will set them on fire and consume them, so that there will be no survivor of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken. Then those of the Negev will possess the mountain of Esau, and those of the Shephelah the Philistine plain. Also possess the territory of Ephraim and the territory of Samaria, and Benjamin will possess Gilead. And the exiles of this host of the sons of Israel, who are among the Canaanites as far as Zarephath, and the exiles of Jerusalem who are in Sepharad, will possess the cities of the Negev. The deliverers will ascend Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esau, and the kingdom will be the Lord's. I want you to notice something here. Look at this. You got prose in verse 1, and then the rest of it's poetry. Remember how the Old Testament uses poetry strategically? It says, pay attention. Easier to memorize. It's more of a picture. It's talking about the thing in a creative way. So God gives to Obadiah, gives him a poem to maybe sing or to preach to the Edomites. Okay, so it would grab their attention here, and there's lots of pictures that we see in other parts of the Old Testament as well. Lots of connections to other parts of the Bible. So there's your intro. Okay, make sure that you review those other books. There is already a Friday Notes quiz available for you with instructions. So make sure that you do that. Got my Bible cup there. We'll be surveying 2 or 3 books next week, as well as you getting in touch with me to say Amos 7, 14, and 15. All right, so keep it up, peeps. I know this is hard, but make sure that you watch those review videos. I don't think there's any other way for getting it in your head except call and response kind of business. So I miss you guys, and I hope to see you soon.